Hello, welcome back to Rev Endurance Sports. And I guess this would be an edition of George Story Time. I'm trying to come up with some other type of thing, but you know, we're on our bikes. We pulled over at a regrouping type of point, and I thought about this story about a customer that I just acquired, and I thought, let me share it with you folks. So over the Memorial Day holiday, just before, I should say, on the Friday just before, I had a customer come in because he needed brake pads. And his bike shop had told him, no, you can only use Shimano brake pads. And when he initially called me, he told me that. And I said, that's not exactly true. You just need compatible brake pads, but you can use anything else. And I think I have a good option for you. Well, no. And I said, okay, I'm not going to try to convince you. And we hung up. I'm out test riding a bike. I get like 3 calls from him. I come back. I get a text from him that says, hey, I'd like to set an appointment. So we set the appointment. New pads, new rotor. He's happy as a clam. Go through the Memorial Day weekend, and then I get a text, hey, I need your help again. Now, this gentleman lives at least 27 miles from me. And in San Diego, 27 miles could, at the wrong time, could be over an hour. Even with freeway, which there is plenty of access where he lives to get to the freeway. So this gentleman is coming from this town up to where I'm at for this advice. Anyway, he says, I am experiencing this clicking noise. It might be a bottom bracket bearing. And I'm like, okay, that sounds logical. And a little bit of history on the bike. The bike was purchased as a used bike from the Pro's Closet. It's a really nice Cervelo with Di2, and it's just a really nice equipped, really well equipped bike. Comes in, I take the crankset off, I inspect the bearings with him, and I said, your bearings are fine, there's nothing to replace here. And he says, well, I hear that clicking, I hear that. I said, okay, I'm gonna put it back together, you know, carry on with the rest of your errands. I'm gonna go out and test ride the bike because low-hanging fruit was, okay, you hear clicking, so I think it's a bottom bracket, you think it's a bottom bracket. Well, I take the bike out and I hear creaking, and so I text him and I say, hey, let's get on the phone. Do you mean clicking or creaking? And he says, well, and so we narrowed it down, it's creaking. And what's the distinction there? Well, clicking sound is typically something rhythmic, maybe something associated with your cadence. So maybe it's a crank arm, a pedal, the bottom bracket bearing, that kind of thing. Well, I figure out after riding the bike with hands, no hands, up a hill, sprinting, doing all kinds of stuff to diagnose this thing, that if I ride the bike with no hands, seated, I'm getting that creaking. Okay, seat post clamp, we've narrowed it down. So then I go to the, I pull the seat post out, and I notice that the seat post has carbon paste, but I just don't think there's enough. So I remove the seat post. I then we're on a public trail overlooking the ocean, so of course it's a popular place to be. And I realized there's just not enough carbon paste. Now, he told me he had taken this to another shop. They said they could not duplicate the creaking, which is of an important point here in a minute when I give you the punchline of the story. So they couldn't duplicate the issue. And so they said, well, we think it's a seat post. So they put some carbon paste on the seat post, put it in. But when I pull the seat post out, you know, if the seat post is this long, most of the carbon paste was at the bottom, nothing around the clamp. I'm thinking, oh, we got this. Carbon paste, put the post back in, I test ride the bike. It is quiet as a church mouse. I'm thinking, that's it, it's fixed. I tell the gentleman, hey, come pick up the bike. It's ready to go. Well, he comes, and I said, I'd like you to test ride the bike before you leave, so please bring cycling shoes with you. And I cannot believe that I asked him to do this, because this is where it all comes down. I asked him to bring his cycling shoes because I wanted him to test ride the bike before he left the shop, because he lives over a half hour away. And oh, by the way, this is how much I appreciate his business. There are loads of bike shops between him and me. I mean, he's driving past tons of bike shops to get to me. So I'm super appreciative to him. I'm going to keep it anonymous, but you get the point. He test rides the bike. He says, I still hear it. I'm like, I don't know. I was reaching it, grabbing at straws or whatever it's called. I'm like, well, how much do you weigh? And he said, well, about 200. I said, well, I'm 155. Maybe your extra weight, maybe creak something that I can't creak. I don't know. I don't know what else to do. So I said, look, last ditch, I want you happy. So I took the bike back into the shop and I said, let's just do a lube job. So I took his pedals off, lubed the spindles on the pedals. I then took his through axles out, lubed the through axles, put those back in. And then he was riding SPD, so the mountain bike style pedals. So then I lubed all the little springs and the retention points of that pedal. And as I'm doing all of that, he's downstairs with his wife. He walks up to my shop and he says, yeah, I still hear it. And my floor creaks a little bit, so I thought that's what he was joking about, was my floor. No, it's his shoes. So I had him take off his shoes and ride the bike without that. And then he was like, oh my God, I am so embarrassed. I've taken so much of your time. I've driven to 2 other bike shops. And he just felt so bad. But the point is, we don't know, right? Until we diagnose and troubleshoot each little component of the whole system. And had I not asked him as a customer service type of thing, hey, I'd like you to test ride the bike before you leave because you live so far away. Had I not asked him to bring his shoes in to test ride the bike, we probably would have never found out that this is what it was. We found out it was the shoes. And of course, he was so appreciative of my diligence that he then said, let's order a new pair of shoes because I'm sure that this is it. And of course, when he took his shoes off and we, kind of flexed them a little bit, we could hear creak, creak, creak. So that's George's story time for today. What's the thing? You have to eliminate all the possibilities before you finally give up. And in this case, it was his shoes. And this is the first time for me, by the way. I mean, I've had where the cleat and the pedal interface may creak or may make some type of rhythmic noise every time the gentleman or the rider pushes down on the left side, let's say. But this was the first time the actual shoe creaked. So anyway, thank you so much for your time and your attention. I appreciate if you've sat through this story, and please give me some feedback. I mean, do you like hearing these stories, these adventures of being a bike shop mechanic, and just things that are probably not really technical, but they're kind of funny and you learn something from them. But I also wanted you folks to check out this view. This is a park that's called Torrey Pines, and there is there's a beach. There's a nice cliff here, and there's a beach all along the edge of this down below. And this is just one of these parks that they decided to have it as a reserve. There's a very famous golf tournament that'll happen just over there, the Torrey Pines something. I'm not a golfer, so I don't know the exact name, but you know, people like Tiger Woods and them will come down this way. But yeah, great place to ride a bike, great place to maybe take a little break and enjoy the scenery. But thank you so much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you up the road.